This video is powered by the pros at Pascal Air Plumbing and Electric. Arkansas owned, Arkansas operated. GoPascal.com.
Mike Irwin from Pig Trail Nation, and that is always enjoyable. Mike, we always appreciate your time today. Did you get your eyes on all the NFL playoff games over the weekend? I could only watch maybe about a little less than 2 of them because of all the travel. Did you watch all of those games?
No, because we have that Pig Trail show, which is a 30-minute show on Sundays. And there were just Courtney and I were the only ones here. Man, we had our nose to the grindstone. I was working all the way up till about 8 o'clock, went home, started to watch the Cowboys game, and thought it was in the third quarter at that point. I went, they're going to get beat. So I didn't watch, and then I tuned it back in when I figured it was over, and they were doing the post game, and I saw they'd lost. So that was pretty much it for me. Sundays are pretty long days for you, huh? Well, that one was especially because, again, that's a 30-minute program. There's a lot of stuff that had to go in there. We had to do a lot of basketball and baseball and even some football in there. So, yeah, it was a long day. So basketball, they finally get the win to stop a losing streak, and that's all. Really, I didn't care how they got there. They just needed to stop that streak and get some positivity moving, and they got that positivity moving. And, man, Jordan Walsh, Joseph Pinion, both stepping up. Anthony Black played another good game. Yet the freshmen. Now, this is one thing that I guess worries me for the remainder of the season. And we talk about them being a young team. Yes, you want to see Walsh continue to defend without fouling. You want to see Pinion defend well, rebound, and shoot when he's open. There's just no guarantee that on a game-by-game basis you'll get that kind of performance from freshmen that up until this point they've been uneven. You know what I'm talking about? Sure. And I think even the older guys struggle at times. It's the consistency with this team that's been the issue all along. And there was inconsistency in that game. The first half didn't go well at all. What I noticed in that game, and I don't know what this means moving on, but I noticed an immediate difference in the officiating. Arkansas was allowed to play defense. Both teams were. And what I saw, especially in the second half, was finally some baskets off turnovers. They were finally forcing some turnovers and scoring off those turnovers. Now, this was interesting. I don't know if you saw these screenshots the fans were putting up on Kermit Davis being out on the floor. Yeah. And I admit I'd never seen a coach stand that far out on the floor. There was one shot where he was almost elbow or shoulder to shoulder with Anthony Black in the first half because Arkansas was down on that end of the floor. And the fans were going nuts. And there's a video that was shot and posted on Twitter of a fan that got out of his seat during a timeout and approached one of these refs right there. He's standing over those photographers that sit there behind the baseline, and he's talking to this ref, and it was a remarkable conversation. You could tell he was saying, why aren't you guys doing something about that? And the ref was going, hey, he's not hurting anybody. It's okay. And he was just smiling and slapping the guy on the shoulder. It's okay. It's cool, and the ref totally diffused that situation. Honestly, he could have thrown the guy out of the arena. You're not supposed to get out of your seat and go out and talk to a ref, even in a timeout. But he just diffused the situation. To me, something was said to that crew. Arkansas had 116 free throws shot against it in 3 previous games. And this one, it was like 11 or 12. And I think they were told, hey, just let these guys play, let the game flow. And I don't know, Phil, I enjoyed watching it like that. I didn't bother me when Kermit Davis was out there. I didn't think he really caused any problem, and Arkansas certainly won the game. But I like the fact that they let him play. Now, are they going to continue to do that? I don't know, but I think that's one reason Walsh only got 1 foul. Because I'm telling you, you look at some of that video that was shot by our photographer under the basket, and there was some real block challenging shots under the basket, block shots, the kind of stuff that was being automatically whistled, especially in the Missouri and Vanderbilt games.
And watching these guys grow up, I'm really enjoying watching Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, and Ford even getting in there a little bit, and Pinion growing up kind of right before our eyes. For this team to really go on a run, which one of these guys you think has to be more? Does Ricky Council have to play better? Who do you got for us that really needs to kind of step up and be? I think Jordan Walsh has to be on the floor if we can keep him out of foul trouble. Him at the 4, I absolutely love him at the 4. Who do you got us stepping up so we can go on a little run, win a couple games in a row?
Well, I think all you need to look at is the fact that Musselman had Walsh in for 40 minutes. He played the entire game. That tells me that the head coach knows he's got to be on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just scoring. I mean, I just think they play better when he's out there, even if he doesn't have big numbers. So I would say him. Black has to play well. He still needs to pick his defense up a little bit. Sometimes his on-ball defense is not very good. Sometimes he still has dribble turnovers. So he's got to play better. And I think Council, I mean, that's still – it's still hard to figure out what's happening there. He just almost came apart in this game. They finally sat him.
He's been kind of shaky, don't you think, Mike? For me watching the games, he's been a little up and down, more kind of playing like a freshman a little bit, and not as consistent as I thought he would be so far this year.
Musselman after the game seemed to be suggesting that part of the problem here is that except for those 2 veteran guys that Arkansas has, Kamani Johnson and Devo, everybody on this team is seeing SEC officials for the first time. They're seeing an SEC atmosphere. They're seeing SEC players. And somebody made the point to me, because I was asking, why are Alabama's freshmen playing so much better than Arkansas's? And the guy said, because Alabama has veteran players around them. And I think there's something to be made for that or said for that. When you've got older guys that have been in this league and know the personnel of the opponent, and Musselman said himself after the game, we're going to be playing LSU. We've seen those guys. So it's going to be interesting to see how much better we play and how much we benefit from knowing who our opponent is as opposed to what we've basically been doing before. And I know Missouri they played them for the second time, and yes, they lost. Guys, they played a really good game at Missouri. Should have won that game. It was taken away from them by the refs in the last 5 or 6 minutes. It was horrible. I think that was one of their better games. They had a 10-point lead at one point. So I think they're playing better, and I think there's something to this idea that the second time you see these guys, it helps. And then there's this. Remember when I said a couple of weeks ago that Arkansas didn't have a true point guard? And, boy, one guy got really mad at me. He said, Black is a point guard. And I will acknowledge he is a point guard. But my point is, if Arkansas had an established point guard, somebody like Lee Mayberry on this team that plays that way, we'd see Black as a 2. And now he's forced to be a 1, and he's a freshman. He's making mistakes. But what would he be if he was here next year and the year after and the year after? Maybe he would end up being one of the best point guards ever, but he's a one and done. So we're seeing some of that stuff that Calipari always ran into when he had all these 5-stars, but he didn't have enough veteran guys around him. And I think some of that's what's going on here.
If Anthony Black stayed 4 years, he'd be Lee Mayberry. I mean, he would be in the Ring of Honor if Anthony Black stayed 4 years.
This is one of the things in
absolutely.
college basketball now. You don't get a chance to develop guys like that. They develop in the G League or they develop in the NBA, while they're resting on the bench or, playing for a bad team if they were selected in the lottery or something like that. But then there's a guy like Devo Davis who is developing here at Arkansas. This is 3rd year of the program. We've been waiting to see if that outside shot would start to develop. And I'm still at the point where it's like, Devo takes a long 3, and when it looks like he's coiling into the shot, I'm like, no. He's made 6 of them in the last 2 games. I mean, sometimes guys become good shooters. It feels like it's out of nowhere. With Devo, it's not out of nowhere because he's busting his butt in the gym. But that's a difference maker right there. If you get an outside shooter and it's not just Pinion, look, I'll still probably, Mike, no. But he's made half of his threes in the last 2 games. That stands for something.
Yeah, they've had 2 straight games where they've shot better as a team from 3. That's encouraging because I'm telling you, when you can't do that and other teams are hitting 5, 6, 7 threes in a game, that's an automatic disadvantage. So it's good to see that. It's just that when people start talking about this turnaround, okay, probably should beat LSU. They're really struggling. But then you're at home against Texas A&M. I've seen them guys. They're on a roll. That's going to be a tough basketball game. So it's not easy from here on out. And then when you look at the back end of the schedule, going to Tennessee and some of the games they're going to have to play, still have to play Kentucky. It's just you got to literally take this one game at a time and just hope they continue to improve.
I'd like to see him come out strong against LSU. We know there's no reason we should be losing to LSU, and I think Anthony Black's an absolute stud. If he stayed for a couple years, he's going to be a lottery pick no matter what. And I don't understand it, and I don't necessarily agree with it that they go early to go ride the bus and play in the G League instead of staying here and working on your craft and working on your trade. And then when you get there, we forget guys like Tim Duncan played multiple years in college. You know, it's like there's no one right way to get there. But man, getting reps, you see it with Brock Purdy at the quarterback for the 49ers. Getting reps in college helps make you success. It's not about getting there first. It's about getting there at the right time and getting in the right fit. But we're all in this society. We got to get there first, even if we're not ready yet.
You know why? It's the money.
Yeah, it is. But why is it in baseball that more and more of these guys are figuring it out? I'd rather wait a couple of it's 3 years, unless your birthday happens to fall weird. I'd rather do that than ride all these wacky buses and live the life of a minor league player. And then I'm better prepared when I go in and I spend less time in the minor leagues, get to the majors quicker if I go to college. And with NIL money now, it would seem there would be more guys doing that. But I guess there's so much money in the NBA, especially if you're a first-round pick, it's hard to turn that down. But, again, wouldn't you love to see Black one more year? I think we probably will see Walsh, but, man.
Walsh can't go. He's not ready. Walsh is not ready. I don't know who's giving him advice, but he does not need to go. He needs to come back a year.
Hey, Mike, I got to ask you about the switch over to football to end this here. The Hogs got what looks like a pretty important transfer on the defensive line out of Missouri, Trajan Jeffcoat. I mean, you can look at all his numbers. He's a defensive tackle, so he doesn't have a ton of tackles or anything like that. I just know that Mizzou had a pretty stout defense this year. They stopped the run, and Jeffcoat was a part of that. So this feels like a really good get for Sam Pittman.
Well, he's only signed 10 coming through the portal to Arkansas, while I think over 20 have left. So you've still got a 10-person gap. But a lot of those, I think they lost maybe 6 that they really wished they had stayed. So you're still a net positive here. And I think if you look at everybody they've gone after, there was a real need there. Now, we won't know until they play this fall how well that whole thing is going to work out. But when you look at everything that's happened, all the new coaches he's added and the players that have come in through the portal, it just looks like to me that Sam is pulling all the right strings right now. You'll get people that disagree with that. It's very controversial on the internet. There are people that think Enos is going to be awful. And I'm thinking, what are you talking about? Did you remember this guy? I mean, he was pretty good. I think there were some issues his last 2 years with the offensive line. Didn't have anything to do with him. But I was always impressed with his ability to develop quarterbacks. So
I think it's going to be big, Mike, for KJ to be in this is going to help him more in the classroom because KJ has the physical tools. He needs to clean up some of his footwork and his lower body mechanics, but his arm talent's there. This is one of the first things he's going to have to do when he goes to the NFL is learn a complete new offense. So this is really good to bring in some new concepts, some new terminology, and see how smart he is. See if he's going to be able to. I mean, that playbook in the NFL is going to be 3 times as big as the one in college. So it's a good move for him, I think.
Yeah, there'll be less of this RPO stuff and more just reading a defense and deciding who am I going to throw the ball here to. I think more the running plays will be more call plays.
And if I'm a running back, I love some Dan Enos, Mike. I mean, he's gonna run the ball. I love it.
He's going to run it, but it's going to be a call play. It's not going to be sitting there where you got to make an option decision. And I think I'm looking forward to seeing him develop KJ. He's a good deep ball guy, but look, his short passes have been an issue. I can go back and show you over and over again in games where he couldn't complete that little 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7 through incompletions, which then forces you to punt. So, yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see how he develops in that respect under Dan Enos.
BetOnline remains your number one source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from the NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at BetOnline. BetOnline features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code BELIEVE to receive your rewards. That's BLEAV. Bet online, where the game starts.